Hello and welcome to this bonus section video series in which I'll be creating a dynamic dashboard with the help of Power Query and pivot tables. This will be a completely dynamic dashboard without any formula at all. So we'll be using Power Query and pivot tables to create this kind of dynamic dashboard. In the earlier dashboard bonus series, I have shown you how to create dashboard with the help of formulas and function, which is also a very good exercise. But these days Power Query is a very powerful tool which help you to consolidate and create this kind of dashboard with the help of simple clicks. Now as you can see, this dashboard has a two section. This particular section which shows month and year to date figures for division A, division B and division C, and also total of division A, B and C for the month and year to date. So if you select February, the figures are appearing for February for division A for the month of February, and in year to date you have January and February. Similarly for division B, month of February and year to date February, and similarly for division C, month and year to date, and this is the total. So if I select June, accordingly the figures are being updated, right? Similarly, these charts, these three donut chart, which represents segregation of revenue for division A, B and C, gross profit and net profit, which are also being updated whenever you click here. So you can see here, if I slide here, November, December, the chart, the pies in each donut chart is being slightly modified according to the data. Now in this below section, we can see here is a separate dashboard and separate charts. This particular dashboard represents divisional data, which is gross profit, net profit and revenue, and it shows the progress. So this is the date slicer, period slicer. So for example, if I select division A and I select till June, I see a progress of Jan to June for revenue, gross profit and net profit for division A. If I select division B, I see Jan to June performance for revenue, gross profit, net profit, and I can select slicer period accordingly. Now only key thing here, this represents a cumulative data. So if you select a month like this, it will not work. So you have to click and drag like this, or you have to use control key if you want to see a particular 3 months like this, or you can use shift and hold and then click the next period like this. So I have selected Jan to July, or you can select August to December like this, and you see the performance being updated in the line chart. Now when I say it's dynamic, it's completely dynamic. So let me show you the Power Query table. Here I have consolidated data files, the source files for division A, B and C with the help of Power Query and manipulated accordingly. Now this is the Power Query pen which I'll be showing you and sharing with you how to create it in the next section of videos. And as you can see here, we have three divisions data A, B and C. Now the beauty of this dashboard is that it's completely dynamic, as I mentioned. Now let's add more divisions. For example, we have two more divisions data coming in, that is division D and E. I'll go to additional divisions. I will copy them in this data file. Now what is this data file folder? It's the folder from which this Power Query window is pulling all the data. So now we have two more divisions. So now we'll go to data and refresh twice. As you can see, we have got division D and E appearing, and you can slice data accordingly, and also the charts being updated. Now it includes division D and E as a part of the pies for revenue, gross profit and net profit. Here also we have two more divisions now, which you can slice and see the data. As you can see, I didn't use any kind of formula here except in these two lines where I am showing gross profit and net profit, which is a very simple formula, which is nothing but gross profit divided by revenue. Apart from that, I haven't used any kind of formula at all in this entire dashboard. Everything is being done with the help of Power Query and pivot table. You might not be completely versed with the Power Query, but I'm telling you it is the best tool for data transformation. I've been learning Power Query since many years now, and it is the best tool ever for the data analysis and consolidation in Excel. So if you don't know Power Query, not to bother. I will try to be as smooth as possible. I'll try to be very slow in explaining you all the steps I'll be taking in the Power Query window. And you need to have basic understanding of pivot tables, how the pivot table and pivot charts work. So that will help a lot in this course to understand how to create this kind of dashboard with no formula at all. So let's get on with this exercise, and I'll be seeing you in the next section of the video, in which I'll be creating a data consolidation like this in the Power Query. That will be our first step, and after that we'll be going through the dashboard creation exercise, which is nothing but pivot tables and pivot charts. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Before we start building our dashboard with the help of Power Query and pivot table, let's look at the data set. So these are the three files we are having, which is division A, division B, division C. I have opened them already here, as you can see. So this is division A's profit and loss statement, which is part of the MIS report. It starts with row 4 and ends with row 58. It has a header, 3 rows, A1 to 3, as you can see here, which has division name, the name of the report, and the financial year. These are the date columns, and it starts with A and ends with O. So this is the structure for all these three files. So it starts with A and ends with O. Similarly, in division C, it is same, starts with A and ends with O. So this is a structured data and a table. So this is important for us to work with Power Query, especially when you're appending the reports and consolidating your data table. That is exactly what we're going to do. So for us, luckily the structure is same, so it will be easier and wouldn't be much problem at all. But in case your reports and your data tables, especially these kind of reports, are not in same column structure format, it is quite challenging to work this kind of reports in Power Query and consolidate them to have a consistent data table. It is not impossible at the same time, but it is difficult, and you need to know advanced coding like M code, which is a formula language of Power Query. But for us, structures are same for all these three reports, and also for the additional divisions report, which gonna be adding division E and division D, the report structure is same. In the practical scenario, if you're working for a company or firm, most of the accounting systems and ERP systems or any kind of business intelligence system will have a structured reports like this. So there wouldn't be much problem in getting these kind of reports in a consistent and structured format. So let's get on with the exercise of building the dashboard. Thank you very much for watching. Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, I'll be showing you how to consolidate data with help of Power Query. First of all, you need to download Power Query add-in. If you Excel 2010 and 2013, you need to have Power Query installed with the help of Excel add-in, which is a free add-in you can download from Microsoft website. There are two versions of Power Query, which is 32-bit and 64-bit. So you need to know your version of Excel. So I'm in Excel 2010 Pro Plus. So I go to File and I go to Help. And as you can see here, I have a 32-bit of Professional 2010 Excel. And I need to download add-in, which I already downloaded it and it's installed. It's a COM add-in, so you have to go to your options like this. Go to options and go to add-ins. And if you go here and select COM add-ins like this, you'll see Microsoft Power Query for Excel, and you need to click OK. So this is how you're going to install your Power Query add-in. Once you install, you'll see a ribbon like this automatically added with your other ribbons like formula, data. I also have a Power Pivot for 2010 and also Power Query here. Now let's import data. So in Power Query tab, we have to go to from file, from folder, and you can browse the folder manually like this. I would rather suggest just copy the folder path and paste it here like this and click OK. So this is our folder path which I copied and pasted here. And you can see whatever the data is there in that folder, the files are appearing here. Let's click edit. Now we don't need any other column other than this content column because this has our data. So I'll right click on content column and remove other column. Now let's name this query to more appropriate name like console PNL. Now we'll click this combine files button, which is down arrow like this, double down arrow, and let's see what happens. We have to select a sample file because all our files are structured in exact same manner. This should work just fine. But you have to make sure that whenever you try to merge data from various files, the structure of the columns is same. So for our case, everything is same for division A, division B, and division C. So let's click OK. Now Power Query has created some additional steps. You don't need to worry about this step. This is done automatically in the Power Query engine. So we have to select this transform from console file, this particular query, and let's hide it. And let's start our process of cleaning and transforming this data. First of all, we have to remove these three rows which we don't need. And to do that, let's go to Home, Remove Top Rows. And how many rows we want to remove? 3. So now those 3 rows are gone. And now let's promote this first row as a header. So to do that, go to Transform, use first row as a header. And let's unpivot this particular data because these dates we want as a column, not column headings. So before we do that, let's remove this year to date column. We don't need that. And I'll click code and description column, right click, unpivot other columns. So other columns were date and amount, which is value here. Now let's convert this particular data type to a date format. Now it's proper date. These two are text, and let's rename this column to amount, and you can also change it to currency. You only want subheadings from our P&L statement which doesn't have code. So fortunately the data set is prepared in such a way wherever we have a subtotals like direct labor cost, revenue, as you can see here, it doesn't have code, right? The code we are having only against the actual GL codes in this profit and loss statement. So we can easily go here and select only null for the codes. We got only the subheadings. Now we don't need this code column, so let's remove it. Now we don't need this net profit and gross profit percentage also because pivot table won't be able to put a calculation on it in a proper way. So we have to do that manual 2-row calculation which I have shown you in the dashboard. So let's remove net GP percentage and net profit percentage. Click OK. Now our data set is ready. Now we have to go to our main query, which is console P&L. Now we have to remove this change type so we get the data which we manipulated in that particular query transform from sample. So here only problem is the data format is not converted properly, so let's do that. Let's change this to tax, this to date, and this to currency. Now we also need a column for the divisions, right? So here you can see the data is there, but we don't know for which division. So we need a column for division. Now to do that, we have to go to this second step here in this query console PL, remove other columns. Click on this gear icon and select name, which was the name of our file, which also has the division code. Now again come here to this step, remove other columns 1 and select name. And you can see now we have the column for the division tag. Let's close this. I would call it divisions. And we don't need this PL and XLS name, so we can remove that. So right click, replace values. So let's remove this space as well. So delete, and we want nothing. Click OK. And let's trim this to text. So go to transform, format, and trim. And here we can name it to month end. So our data set is ready for 3 divisions, as you can see, A, B, and C in the Power Query. This is completely dynamic, and in future if you have more divisions, as I've shown you in our demo video, the first video, it will be added automatically without any errors. Let's do a close and load for this. So close and load to a table on a new worksheet. Now our table has come here. Before we go further, let's save this file. So I have already saved this file as a Power Query dashboard, and you need to do that same before we go further if you haven't done so. And let's change this formatting display for date to 14-01 format like this, and for amount let's change it to accounting. Let's create a dynamic file path and data folder path for this query. So if I take you back to the query window and we go to source, you can see here the folder path is hard coded. If you remember, when we have imported data from file and folders, we pasted the exact folder path of our files, division A, B and C, which is this, and this particular folder path was hard coded at that time, right? So in case you want to move this particular solution, this entire folder of your dashboard and data folder to another location, or you want to email it to somebody else, that particular person, whenever it opens, or whenever you yourself open this particular dashboard folder with Power Query, it will show an error. Now this is not a disastrous error, you lost everything. You just need to remap that particular folder to your new location, right? So it's very easy. You just have to just browse it and select that data folder again. But here we are preparing a completely dynamic solution, so there is a way around to do that, which is called using parameters, and this is more of advanced in Power Query, but if you follow along with me, I'm sure this will really help you. And if you know this trick, you can create your Power Query solution completely dynamic, and you can send it to anybody, or you can move it without any error popping up whenever you open in the new location or somebody else opens your Power Query solution. So let's try to do that. I'll go back to the Excel, and here I'll use sheet 1, name it to C panel, which is a control panel, and I'll bring in a table called parameter from our existing completed solution, which is here. I'll explain you what this parameter table is. So here I'll just paste it here. This particular table is called parameter table, and I will just rename it to parameter. And it has 2 rows and 2 columns. So first row is named file path, and second row is named data folder in this A column. And this value is derived from a complex left cell and file name function, you can see here. And this data file's particular hard-coded value is nothing but name of this folder called data file. So if you have any other name like source data or any other name, you need to select it, do F2 on your keyboard, copy it, and come here to this particular control panel table and paste it, and put this kind of hyphenate, the backward hyphenate like this. But this particular value is coming from this left and cell function. This is nothing but a complete folder path where this particular file is located. So this file, Power Query dashboard, is located here, right? It's located in this G drive, X accounting, OneDrive, Exert Pro, then Udemy courses, prepayment course, and PQ dashboard. The exact value is being dynamically pulled here with the help of this particular formula. So we have to select this particular table now, go to Power Query and select table or range. So we have to create a query out of this table. So it is now a query. It is called parameters, which is fine because we're going to change these names anyway. So first thing you need to do is select file path like this and go to this values record here and do a drill down. So what drill down did is we got us the exact value from that particular record. So let's name this to file path like this, and let's duplicate it and name it to data folder. Let's go to this filter rows in this data folder query and select data folder value here. So if you go to value here in data folder, you get data files, which was the name of your this folder where your raw data is, right? So now we're going to use this particular names file path and data folder in our folder path here in source. So instead of this GX accounting, this long path, we're going to be using file path and data folder tags. So I'll type file path and data folder. Right, you have to put %, because we want to join these together. And you can see there is no error. Now the file path for this particular folder is pulling from this particular two queries, the values from this drill down values, right? So before we go further, let's copy this and go to this sample file and go to source. Here also the old folder path is there, which is not dynamic. Paste it here. And now we are done. So our entire solution is now completely dynamic. Let's go back to Excel. You can format this if you want. I'll remove the grid line. Now let's add a cumulative amount column as well. Running totals in Power Query is quite difficult at the moment. There is no inherent function or a formula in Power Query which will help you to write a running total function. To do that, we have to use only one formula, which is SUMIFs, and add additional column to have a running total for division A, revenue, and month-wise. So similarly, division B, revenue, and month-wise. So we want a cumulative total. So Jan, Feb, March, like that. So let's add a column, cumulative amount. And let's write SUMIF function, which is the best suited function for this particular scenario. So SUMIF, what is the sum range? Amount. Now we want to be dynamic and we want to go progressively adding the totals for each month. So how to do that in a structured table format? This is not a normal cell formula like A1 and B1, and in this case D1, 2, 3, 4 like. So in this case we have to apply this amount column in the same manner as we do with normal formulas. So let's freeze the particular row, which is this, because our total starts from there. So to do that we have to put @ so @ is nothing but like a $sign, like you give absolute references. So this is our sum range, which will be dynamic and pulling through, adding month-wise data for according to the criteria for division and description. So comma, what is the first criteria? So it's division. So let's select division column. Here exactly the same approach. We'll copy this and put a semicolon, freeze the first row of division. And what is the criteria range? It's nothing but division itself. So we want division wise total. So at division, like this. Now second criteria is description. So let's select that. And here also exact same approach. We'll copy this, put a semicolon, put at, and our criteria is nothing but description, like this. So the third and last criteria range is nothing but month end, where we want total to be dynamic. So we'll select month end column like this, and the range would be different than what we have done for this division and description. So we want the total to be less than or equal to that particular date, right? So let's add a criteria like this, less than or equal to, and at the same time what less than or equal to that particular current date. So we use at month end and close the parenthesis and click enter, and we got the exact correct values as we are looking for. So let's format it. So as you can see, the total is being added for the revenue and for division A. So if you go down here, labor cost, so labor cost for Jan, Feb, March, April till then, and so similarly. Now if you go to division B, accordingly the revenue is being added dynamically. So this is how you create a cumulative column. This is the only function we're going to be using, and of course that small function of dividing gross profit and net profit by revenue to get a percentage. So that's it. Our table is ready for pivot table and dashboarding. So next lecture we'll be starting the process of building a dashboard with help of pivot tables. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any question, please let me know in the Q&A section. I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you very much. Welcome back to the bonus section video series where I'm showing you how to create a dynamic dashboard with the help of Power Query and pivot tables. Now before we go further, let's change this date format to a shorter one. So I only want to see Jan and 17, so month and the year. So to do that, let's select this entire column, month end, and go to format cells, go to date, and I want a short date like this. So this particular date will be appearing everywhere in the dashboard, and I don't want it to consume too much space in the slicers. Now let's add a dashboard tab, which will be our main dashboard tab, and which will be our pivot table tab. So select this particular table and go to design and summarize with pivot table, and we want this on a new worksheet. Just rename it to dashboard like this and remove the grid line. We want description in row like this. Don't worry about the order, we have to manually adjust it because by default it is done in a manner in which your data set is, right? So we have to manually move up and down to get the exact order, like revenue and direct cost and then operation overhead and then net profit. We won't be needing grand total, so we don't need month end in this particular area. We want as a slicer. So let's add amount, month, and cumulative amount, which is year to date, and let's add divisions here on the column labels like this. So let's convert the data format. So I'll go to number format, number. We don't want any decimals. Similarly for the cumulative amounts, go to number format, click OK. Now let's convert this layout to a tabular one. So tabular like this, and create some extra space on the top so we can insert a slicer. So to do that, go to options, insert a slicer, and we want a slicer for month end. And let's add total 12 columns like this. It's a horizontal slicer. And let's modify the slicer, go to options and slicer settings. We don't want to see header like this, and shrink it a bit. Now we'll change the design of the slicer. So I already created a custom version of slicer like this. So you can do that by clicking any of the slicer design, the one you like. Because I want to be consistent with the color, so I selected this light blue. So right click and duplicate. And if I show you the settings, so this is the modified slicer. I have formatted, like made font bold and remove the borders of this particular slicer, right? So now borders are gone, so this looks more professional. And now we don't need this additional space which we had created. Our slicer is ready. So now if I click here, the figures are changing for each division. Now let's fix the order of this particular fields here, and revenue is first, which is fine, and with that net profit should be at the end. So let's move till the end, so at end like this. Operation overhead should be just above the net profit, so move it down. So total cost is fine, and gross profit should be after total cost, total direct cost. So this particular row should be bold. So before we do that, let's give proper names to this sum of amount, sum of come amount, right? So I'll name it month and year to date like this. Let's size it properly like this, and let's format the design of this particular table. So first of all, I want in the middle, and let's bring this particular division A text to in the center of these two cells. So I'll select B and C like this, go to alignment, center across selection, and just format, copy it. And now let's make this row bold like this. Also gross profit. So let's go to design of this pivot table, and let's click something dark like this, right? It has a nice format, but we can still change it. So let's make this text bold. And let's add some borders for the column. So go to design, right click, duplicate, and select whole table. Go to borders and select vertical borders like this. Now it is not appearing because we have to select like this. So this looks good enough. So revenue, cost of sales, gross profit and net profit. You can do further adjustment the way you want according to your liking. Now as you can see, showing correct values. Now this is refreshing and resizing. We can also fix that. So let's go to option and go to options and untick this auto fit column width on update. So it will not update the size of the columns whenever we refresh it or update it. So the pivot table section is ready for the dashboard, and in the next lecture I'll be showing you how to create those donut charts for revenue, gross profit and net profit for each division. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Now let's create donut charts for this particular dashboard, and to do that we have to create a separate pivot tables for revenue, gross profit, net profit for division wise, and also for a particular description. So revenue, gross profit and net profit. So to do that we're gonna be moving a little bit here and go to options, and before we do that let's select our main data source, because this will be an independent pivot table and then we'll be connecting it via pivot table slicer connection. So select this table and go to insert and go to pivot chart like this, and we want on existing sheet. Go to dashboard here and let's keep it here or here and click OK. Now in pivot table this donut chart, let's create chart as well. So select chart type, go to a donut chart. So what exactly we want? So we want division like this and description on the legends field here, but only we want one description, which is revenue, and we want for cumulative amount like this. We don't need grand total at the row. Now let's format the chart. We don't want this button, so the easiest way is to go to analyze tab and hide all. Let's bring the title here in the middle and let's resize it. We have to resize the plot area as well like this. And let's add data labels. Add data labels like this, and let's format the data labels. We don't want value, we want category name and percentage. Click OK. Now let's format it to a dark gray and text to be white and bold like this. Now let's remove the borders, outline of the chart we don't want, so we have a clean looking donut chart. Now let's move this pivot table because we need more space as our chart will expand. So let's connect the slicers with this particular pivot table. Now before even we do that, let's start renaming our pivot table. So this particular pivot table, our main dashboard, let's give it a name of dashboard table 1 like this, and this particular table let's name it to donut chart revenue like this. Now we want this particular slicer to change figures for this particular donut chart as well, right, which is connected to this particular pivot table, right? So how do we do that? So we need to connect our slicer. So click on this particular date slicer and go to pivot table connection, and this slicer belongs to this dashboard pivot table. So dash table 1, as I've shown you before while renaming, and we want to connect it to this revenue dashboard, which is for this donut chart. So click OK Now if I click it, you see the figures are changing, as you can see here. Because this particular revenue is not being changing that much, so you don't see much changes here, but it is changing, as you can see. You can also see changes here. Let me quickly change the number format. So for example, if I select April, the figures are changing. This is a cumulative figure, so 804 for division A, 149 and 253, which you can see here. So the revenue for this particular donut chart is changing and the slices are changing for this one. Now let's change the color of this individual donut pies. So I'll select this division A, a point, and just give it a solid dark gray color like this. Click OK. Select division C, go to fill, give it solid blue like this, and select C like this, go to fill and give it green like this. Click OK. So our first donut chart is ready, which is linked to this particular slicer. Now first, this is for revenue, so let's create for gross profit, and I will copy this particular table and rename it to donut chart GP like this, and we have to go to this filter for the description and select gross profit. Now out of this pivot table, which is for gross profit, you need to create a donut chart. So go to pivot chart and insert a donut chart like this. Now you don't have to go through those formatting steps again. I'll show you a very nifty trick. Control C for the existing revenue chart and paste. So our gross profit chart is ready. Just resize it a little bit, and so if I click it, it is also already linked, even though we just have to just recheck, and yes, it is linked. So just by copying the format, everything is done by Excel, and the donut chart is completely created for us with just few clicks rather than going through the whole process. Now similar way, let's create for net profit as well. So I'll copy the gross profit pivot table and select, instead of gross profit, net profit. While this pivot table is selected, let's go to pivot chart and insert a donut chart like this. Bring it here and let's copy, right click, paste. Resize it like this, and it's formatted and connected. Since the area of dashboard is a little bit small, let's select these three charts, donut charts, and move them here like this. And also let's add a column so we have some more space. Now let's move them up a little bit. So now if you click, you see your charts are updated dynamically. Now in future, when we add more divisions, as I've shown in the very first video, there is a space here and there's also space there. So this is now our first portion of our dashboard ready. Now in the next portion, we'll be creating a separate dashboard with the line chart to show a cumulative monthly performance, and that we'll be doing in the next video. So thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know in the Q&A section and I'll be happy to answer you. Thank you very much. Before we go any further for the line charts, I added these two rows, which is called gross profit and net profit percentage, which calculates the gross profit and net profit for individual columns like per month and year to date like this, which was not possible in pivot table calculation itself. So it's easier to just put this simple formula, which is nothing but C13 divided by C$8, which is gross profit divided by revenue, and similarly net profit divided by revenue. And I have added if error function like this, So in case there is any error or division error, it will show nothing. Now when we are going to add division D and E, we have to just drag this formula along and for the rest of the columns, because there would be 4 more columns we added, and these particular columns total month and year to date will be moved. So in that case, we just have to select and drag like this and it will work just fine. Now let's create second part of dashboard where we'll be creating line charts with the help of pivot tables. The 3 line charts will be preparing similar way like revenue, gross profit, net profit, and this would be a month-wise comparison and how the divisions are performing each month for the year 2017. Again, we have to go to our data table and insert a pivot chart. So insert and pivot chart, we have to select the location. So let's put it right here. Click OK, and chart would be a simple line chart. So for the data purpose, we will need description, and let's filter it to only revenue like this. Sum of amount like this, and we want a month data like this. Now let's move description. This is correct, and the layout, let's remove the grand totals. Again, we have to do the formatting. You have to go to analyze and remove these buttons. We don't want the lines, and also legend is not needed because we have the label. Let's arrange it. And let's move the title in the corner like this. And let's add a slicer. Before that, let's remove the outline of this entire chart like this. So we have a clean look. Bold the axis. And we have to add now 2 slices, one for division because we don't know for which division this chart is, and also for the months. So go to analyze, insert, slicer. So first slicer would be month end like this. Let's put it here. Expand it. Like this, and let's apply our slicer theme. So here we have to select like this cumulatively. Otherwise, if you select 1 month, it will not show anything. Careful when you try to analyze data like this. You can select anywhere, but it has to be more than 1 month. So it shows Jan, Feb, March, April as you have selected Jan, Feb, March, April. And if you select May, June, July, it will show May, June, and July, right? Now let's add slicer for divisions. So go to analyze and insert slicer for division, and we want total 5 divisions. Why? Because we're going to be adding the 2 files. So let's go to slicer settings and remove the heading. So this performance shows for each division like this, and for this selected months, so A, B, and C like this. Now let's create charts for gross profit and net profit. So I'll copy this chart, paste here, and paste here. Let's filter it to gross profit, and let's filter it this to net profit. So again, same exercise, we have to select this table, options, pivot chart, line chart like this. Bring the chart here. Right click, copy, and paste. So this is a gross profit chart ready for us, and we have to connect this slicer. Okay, we haven't got the names done correctly, so let's do that. So this is line chart revenue. This is line chart GP, and this is line chart NP. Now it would be easier to connect slicers. Okay, we don't want to connect with, okay, these three charts are already connected, so that's fine. Click OK. So accordingly the data is updated for all the charts. Now the last chart, which is for net profit, so go to options and pivot chart, line chart. Okay, let's Control X, Control V, expand it, copy, right click, paste. This section shows line charts for revenue, gross profit, net profit, but month wise. So, and also you can select divisions. And above section shows distribution of profit. There's some slight alignment problem. This shows distribution of gross profit, net profit, and revenue for each division like this, and also monthly table format is there, so you can see data like this. And also here in this section you see monthly performance and how each month is performing in a visualized manner like line chart. This is how you create two dashboards with absolutely no formula except here and this key formula here, because of the limitation of Power Query in running total. But apart from that, as you have seen, I haven't used any formula. Now let's add two more divisions to our this report, our dashboard, and let's see whether our dashboard updates flawlessly without any problem. So I have added division D and E in our data files folder. And now I'll go to our dashboard here and click refresh and refresh. Okay, there seems to be some problem here. Let's try to see our data files, data file sheet where our Power Query table is there. Now there seems to be problem with the cumulative amount. As you can see, the formula is not copying. You just have to double click like this and the formula will be copied till down. And now let's go back here and try to refresh it, and you can see the data is appearing just fine. And as I told you before, let's drag this formula. Let's save it, and as you can see, the figures are being updated automatically. Only problem is the formatting, which you can do like this, and it looks okay. As you can see, the division which were added had colors formatted automatically, which is just fine. So now we can see in pie chart two additional division, which is D and E. So if I click here, you see additional data for division D and E. Okay, the pivot table is refreshing, but it is messing our data. So let's try to do a manual formatting like this. Now it looks okay. There is no problem with the alignment for division D and E for month and year to date. And similarly, we have division D and E, for which you can see the performance in our line chart as well. So this is how you prepare a complete dynamic dashboard with the least usage of formula, except that we have to use this cumulative sum if function here in the data table, because Power Query doesn't have an inherent feature which give you running totals, right? Also with the criteria. So only sum if function could come to a rescue for us, and it worked just fine. So apart from that, there was no major formula usage in this dashboard creation, and you can add more division as well. Just have to make sure your chart alignment is okay, and you might have to change the chart format, like instead of donut you can put a bar chart as well. So this is a simple dashboard and completely dynamic and very powerful visualization, as you can see here. If you have any question in this particular exercise, please let me know in the Q&A section, and I'll be happy to help you. I'll be coming with more courses based on Power Query and pivot tables, and also Power Pivot in future. And also I'll bringing more dashboard techniques as well. Till then, stay tuned, and I wish you all the best. And I hope to see you in my next upcoming courses. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.